Welcome to part 17. In this part, I'm going to go over creating eyebrows, and we'll probably mess with the lighting setup if we have some time. We should. Eyebrows shouldn't take too long. Okay, let's go ahead and jump in. Go into tab into edit mode. And one thing that might happen to you, it happened to me, and I couldn't figure out why for the longest, but I finally figured it out. Sometimes if you're in edit mode like this, and you start selecting stuff, your screen will turn red. It's weird. It's like, and you go down here and it's all red. I don't know what it is. I figured out how to turn it off. You just turn off the, right here where it says occlude background geometry, just click that and it makes it quit doing it. I don't know if it's a bug or if it's supposed to do that or what, but I don't like it. So I turned it off. Anyways. Okay, now the eyebrows. I want to move these goggles up a little further on the forehead before we get started, though, because they're gonna cover up. They're gonna cover up where I want to put the eyebrows, so I'll just move them up a little higher, about right there. I gotta move the goggles. Also, actually, you know what I'm gonna do? Just undo everything, because those Bezier curves don't like to be rotated like that, it appears. So I'm just going to rotate both of them. Just move them up like so. And now just grab the back end of the strap and move it up. Okay. Sehr gut. Ja. Alrighty. Now the eyebrows. It looks kind of weird without him now that he has hair, doesn't he? Let's remedy that. Okay. Go back into the object tab. We're already there. And let's see. I want to create a new particle system. So I just hit the right arrow there. And now you can see we're in two. There's two particles now. So I'm going to add a new one. And now we're in particle 2. So 2 of 2, basically. I'm going to go ahead and pop back to that other one and hit the little interactive enable particle system during interactive display. That's what the little pop-up says. I'm going to turn that off so we can't see the hair. It's still there, but I just turned it off so it doesn't mess with my video card or whatever. It speeds things up when it does have to calculate all those hairs just for preview. So anyways, let's pop back over to particle 2. And let's go ahead and name them. I'm going to name this one eyebrows, and name the other one hair. There we go. Back to eyebrows. Want this to be the emitter, and I want the amount to be 0. Maybe if you've watched my other eyebrow tutorial, you kind of know where I'm going here. But I turn the amount to 0 because I'm going to draw them in there rather than have the computer randomly put them there. You know what, I'm going to turn it up a little bit just so I can see some when I start adding the normal. Where do we see them anywhere? Oh, first I got to change the emitter to hair. There we go. Okay, so now I can kind of see the length of about where how long they're going to be, and that's too long for eyebrows, so I'll just scale it back down some. And that's probably pretty good. Yeah. So now I'll change it back down to 0, the amount. Segments, we don't need 5. Probably 4. 4 will be fine. Okay. So now, go ahead and set some of these settings up. Click on the emitter. What clicking on emitter does is, if you don't click on it in your render, it's only going to render the hair. It won't render the geometry. So you got to click on emitter. And so, as you can see, the little pop-up says render emitter object also. That's what we want. And we want the material to be 2. Quickly, one thing that I realized yesterday after recording that, the hair looked black, and I didn't want it to be black. I wanted it to be that brownish color. And let's go to the hair material here, and it's black. The reason being is when I created that transparency gradient right there that you can barely see, and set it to alpha, I failed to turn off the color, so click that off now, and now you can see that it's more brown. Okay, so that being said, typically people with brown hair kind of have black eyebrows. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and create a third material, new, and change that to really dark brown. Not quite black, but really dark brown. There we go. And let's call this, let's go ahead, it's a good idea to name everything. Just name that brows. And go ahead and put eye in front of it, I guess, just for clarity, eyebrows. Go back to this color and we'll call this one hair. And let's go back to that very first one and name it body texture. There we go. Okay. Back to, okay, we're done with the textures, I guess, just to make sure. Yeah. Okay, back to the object, F7. We want to make it the third material now since we created that new eyebrow material. And anything else? We'll turn on children later. And we don't have a vertex group this time because we're just going to draw where we want them. So, okay, we're good to go. Go ahead and set the particle system to be editable. And now go into particle mode. And we'll want to add, right here, add. And we don't want 50 of them. We just want, let's say, we'll put three at a time. So now, make the, actually, okay, size, that's the size of the brush. We want the strength to be down to, say, 3. It's popping from 2 to 5. Can't get it onto 3. So we'll say 5. And the size, that's a little too big. That's about good, say 24. Okay, now, you just click and drag, and it just starts drawing those particles right where you're drawing them. Pretty handy. Pretty nice little feature. Okay, good. Let's go ahead and do the other one. Okay, kind of get even it out so I can kind of see where I'm going here. Okay. Okay, now let's comb them. Comb the eyebrows. Set the distance emitter to be 0.5 this time. So eyebrows can be a little closer to the head than the scalp. And just comb them to where they kind of go in the general directions that eyebrows tend to go. Like so. Okay. Okay, and we want to add children now. Go ahead and, okay, show children is on still. Children, and we want, this time instead of faces, I want particles. And it's crazy, as you can see. We don't want it to be that crazy. So change the radius of the children around the parent. Right now it's taking the particle, and instead of putting a bunch of children on the face that the particle is on, like around the face just randomly, it's putting it like in a radius around that particle. So the smaller the radius is, the closer those particle children are going to be to it. Okay, and we can kind of change the roundness of the children around that parent. If you put them too close, it just makes it look like a really thick strand of hair, so you want to, I'll put it on about 0.03, and I guess I'll put a little bit of clumpiness in there, just a little bit. Put it on about 0.3. These might be a little too thick, but we'll see. Let's go ahead and comb them a little smoother here, and let's set the draw steps up to 3. That'll make everything a little smoother. Okay, render 4. And go ahead and turn on strand render on this. And extras, anything. Spline now. Okay. Random length. Always like to max that one out. Okay. Let's comb it a little closer over on this side. And over here too. Don't want them too bushy. Okay, that looks good. Okay, pop into object mode. These might be way too bushy, but we'll see. Okay, let's go ahead and render it out, and I'll pause the recorder so you guys don't have to wait. So, see you in a second. Okay, that does not look good, does it? Those eyebrows are way too thick, way too bushy. The hair looks a little, well, it looks a lot lighter. I don't want it that light. I want to darken it up some. So let's adjust the color of the hair, and let's turn those children off on the eyebrows. Let's say none, no children, and we'll see how that works. Okay, go back to the color. Color of the hair. There we go. Make it a little darker. You know, here's a good idea. You can change the color of the hair. Say you want it, for example, just you know how when dark-haired people lighten their hair, they bleach their hair, and it starts growing out. You can see the darker roots at the bottom of the hair, you know, as it fades into the blonde. Say you want to do that. Well, here's how you do it. Same way as you did the alpha map on the hair. Just go to color band. And let's change this to kind of a auburn color, maybe. Excuse me, had a little bit of scratchy mouth throat. Okay, and let's make that not quite black, but a really dark brown color. Maybe add a little more red to it. And let's add a little bit more red to this. Okay, that's good. Okay, now go back into here, and we want to change the map input to strand, and this time it's on color, so that's fine. Okay, I'm not seeing a difference here. That should have worked. Let me look at some of the settings again. Oh, okay, because I didn't give it a texture type. So I need to say blend. And there we go. There we go. Okay, now the hair should look a lot better, and hopefully these eyebrows will look a lot better as well. Let's go ahead and give it another render, and just that's the one thing about playing with this particle hair. You have to do a lot of rendering just to make sure it's going to look the way you want. So, okay, go ahead and render. Okay, the hair looks a lot better. I still don't know if I like it that light or not. Might go ahead and darken it up. But the eyebrows still look, well, they don't still look bad. They look bad again. Did a few changes on them. So let's play with that. Let's get in here close so we can kind of see what it's gonna look like here. Maybe we should turn those children back on, but not have 100 of them. Let's put it down to, let's say 10. 10 should be fine. Render amounts 10, that looks about right. That's 0. That might be even too many. Let's try 8. And they still look, I'd like for them to taper down on the side, so I'm going to go ahead and go into edit mode, particle mode, and just cut a path here where there's a little more tapered. Do the same thing over here. Okay, that's looking better. Go ahead and calm it up just a little bit more. Turn on the, excuse me, just the plain strands with no points. There we go. They're not quite so curved out. Maybe this will help. Yeah, pretty well. It's glued to the head, kind of more natural looking. There we go. Okay. Hopefully that'll be good. Go back in object mode. And let me look at that render that we did. They might be too light, the color of them. So I'm going to go back in, and while I'm on the hair texture, I'm going to make that a little darker, more brown instead of the bright red that it was giving us. Okay, maybe that'll look better. Okay, go to the eyebrows color. Let's go ahead and make that black, and let's change its opacity to be a little bit more opaque. Let's run that up to about 0.6. This one is on 0.05, so let's run it up to about 0.2. Maybe, excuse me, maybe that'll help out. I'll go ahead and save. I like to save often when I'm doing this kind of thing. Sometimes it'll lock up my computer. So, anyways, okay, so let's go ahead and see what we're going to look like. Pop into camera mode again. Go ahead and render it out. Okay, the hair looks acceptable. Might have a little bit too much clumpiness added to it. I might turn that down just a little bit. The eyebrows are looking better. I think I might have made them too opaque. Might bring that back down so they're not so in your face right there, black in your face. Maybe that'll look a little better. Okay, let's go ahead and turn this back down. And make it so it's not solid black, just a little bit. Maybe that'll look good. Okay. What else? The hair. So let's pop over to the hair particle system. Turn that back on so we can see. And the clumpiness is 0.5. Let's turn it down to 0.25. Go ahead and type that in. Okay. And back over to eyebrows in case I need to adjust those any. Go ahead and save and render again. Okay, they're gradually getting better. Might need to add some more children around them. X that out. Let's go ahead and try that. Let's make it 12, 13 children around them. And let's see, go ahead and look at that render again. Maybe that'll help out. Maybe go into object particle mode. Just set the distance a little further. Let's make it 0.75. Maybe that'll help out. It popped up to 0.8. I guess it estimates up to the nearest point. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and comb them out a little bit. And you know, one thing you can do for such an occasion is use puff. And what puff does is it kind of, well, it just does that. It puffs the hair up. So you just run it over, and you can see it like raises the root of the hair, or it kind of makes it more stiff, basically. So the curve of the hair is further away from the surface of the skin, if that makes any sense. Go ahead and comb it a little bit better. Okay. Don't want to waste too much time on that. I think, however this looks, it's going to look good. Because I don't really want to waste too much more time on these little things. So, go ahead and go back to object mode in the camera view. Let's rearrange that camera. I'm tired of that one look. Okay, let's zoom out some. Okay. Okay, go ahead and render this out, and then we'll call it good, unless it just looks horrible. So we'll see. Hold on. Okay, they're looking better. I think they're not still quite good, but as far as the particles themselves, I guess it looks okay. It's the texture I think needs to be a little more shiny. Take down the specular and raise up the hardness, and that'll probably help out. I'm not going to go ahead and render it again though. I'm going to go ahead and save it. One thing that might help render things faster, at least for me it does, over in your render panel, click on your little button here that looks like a mountain with a little star behind it or something, and right under render where it says OSA, I think that's oversampling something or other. Don't quote me on that. If you select 5, it's lower, and in my views, it looks just as good. I don't know, it might make a difference to some people, but I can't tell a big one. So put that down to 5, and right here where it says 128, pop that down to 64, and it looks a little bit better too. And I like to run my X parts up to 10, Y parts up to 10. That way it can render smaller areas faster than big blocks of big areas. Anyways, that's my 2 cents on the rendering button. Okay, go ahead and save that. Now I'd like to set up some lights, and I want to set it up in the, if you've ever heard of the basic three-point light setup. What that is go ahead and, I guess I could use these. I want this to be a spotlight, and I want this one to also be a spotlight. But I want to be able to point them, so I want to select right here in front of our little guy. Space, same thing I did with the camera. Grab the light, grab that, Control T, track to it. Now I have a way to direct my light a little easier. Do the same thing over here. Create another point in the middle of space, empty. This guy, bring him over. Shift click that new empty, Control T, track to. Okay, and I said 3 points, so we need one more. I'm just going to grab both of those, Shift D, move it around, and move it back here. Now, the 3 points of this setup are the key light, which can either be on the left or the right. I typically put it on the right, and that's going to be the brightest light in the scene. And right now it's set at 1, which is fine. And we want to go ahead and turn on buffered shadows. Some people like ray trace shadows. I prefer buffered because they seem to be more realistic as far as soft edges go. Some people might argue that ray trace can do the same thing, but I've had more luck with buffered myself, so that's what I'm going to show you. The buffer size looks like the default is 2,880. I like to set it up to about 5,000. I'll type that in and it pops it back down to 4992. I guess it has to be in increments of 8. I don't know. And samples are 3. That's fine. Halo 0 is fine. Soft 3. That's fine. Bias. I like to set that to about 0.25. Okay, and that's good for that light. We need to duplicate those shadow settings on these other lights. Buffered shadow, 5,000, 0.25, good. And finally the backlight, buffered shadow, 5,000, 0.25. Okay, now like I said, the key light right here, I'll go ahead and name that key light. It's going to be the brightest one at 1.0, and it's set to white. That's good. Now this light over here is going to be called the fill light, F-I-L-L, and that just fills in the dark side of the face that the key light, is throwing shadows on. It doesn't need to be a full 1.0. It needs to be, let's say 0.65. not quite 3/4 the power of the other, and not quite half either, or more than half. Anyways, okay, the backlight, I usually make it about the same as the fill light, 0.65. And okay, that's our 3-point light setup. That works fine for stationary figures like this, say like he's just standing there talking or something, or sitting down doing just an interview or something. But if he's moving around, you might use a different setup, like the sun or something like that. But for right now, we'll just use the 3-point setup. Okay, and we already set the camera up earlier in one of the previous segments. And like I just did the same thing I did with the lights, if you recall. Just set up an empty, there it is, and set the camera to track to it. So, okay, so now we have some better light set up. Go ahead and save it. And one thing to make the skin look a little better is, sorry, I bumped something with my elbow. I thought I knocked it over, but to give the skin some subsurface scattering. So we want to select the body texture, go over to the SSS button under these under the material tabs here, and I want to turn on let's pick skin and select the brown, make it almost white, and turn on subsurface scattering. And I like to make the back, I usually make it about 3 or 4. I'll make it 3. And the scale, let's run that up to 0.2, and I think that'll be fine. And I like to run the red up a little bit. Let's put it on about, let's make it 7.0. Okay, go ahead and save, and I'll render this out and we'll see what it looks like. Okay, we have the SSS subsurface scattering set way too high. However, on the positive side, the eyebrows look good. Okay, so go ahead and turn that off. He looked like a plastic doll or something. And a way to fix that is turn the scale. 0.2 is way too much, so let's try 0.1. Half of that. Save it, and I'll give her another render. Still rendering, but I'm going to go ahead and stop it real quick. You can already see that it's still too high at 0.1. So let's go ahead and stop the render. Escape. Close that out. And let's make it 0.075. See how that works. Save it. I like to save often. Looks like 0.75 is still too high. So go ahead and escape out, close it, and let's make it 0.05. 0.05. Okay. Is that right? Yeah, that's right. Okay. Okay. That should be fine. Let's look at that a little bit further. It's not rendering right now, don't worry. Looks like my key light might need to be a little bit brighter. So let me grab that. Let's make it, instead of energy of being 1.0, let's make it 1.25. And we'll go ahead and save. Okay. Do one more render, and I think we'll be about done with this segment. So go ahead and render it out. Okay, I think that's workable. That's doable. I like that. Might be a little too shiny, but that's okay for now. We'll fix that later. Okay, so that's all part 17, and I will see you in part 18.